So when you're reading a book this big and you read 800 pages and you've barely cracked the halfway mark, you know you're in for a good time. Hey everyone, I'm Nikhil with Shelf-Esteem, and this is my weekly reading roundup for the week ending December 15th, 2024. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Nikhil with Shelf-Esteem. I'm a composer, now also a booktuber. You can find my music in The Wheel of Time Season 2, His Dark Materials Season 3, and the newly released psychological horror film, Dead Whisper. So I love to call these weekly reading roundups, but they kind of expand. You know, the conversation expands beyond reading. It also has to do with some of my music projects because some of those are tangentially related to the books, kind of what's happened on the channel as well. So a weekly update, but I always try to call it something different. So if you like this kind of video, please like and subscribe, and let's jump on into the books. So if you followed my channel at all, then you know that I, like millions of other people around the world, are reading Brandon Sanderson's Book 5 of the Stormlight Archive, Wind and Truth, which culminates in kind of the end of the first arc of the series. If you don't know, it's going to be a planned 10-book series with the first 5 concluding an arc. So this was long anticipated, long awaited, and Brandon Sanderson really gave the people what they wanted. They said, oh, I want to have a reading experience, and he gave us an experience. Almost 1,400 pages here. I'm cracking the 800-page mark, and you could see where I'm at in the book. So it goes to show how much reading adventures awaits. But, you know, I got to say, like, one thing that has really struck me about this book so far is, and this is all spoiler-free, of course, is just how bigger and more epic the story is getting, and how there's still more mystery to unfold. Even 800 pages in, you know, you kind of would expect that at a book 5 where something is going to start to conclude and maybe character arcs are starting to wrap up and things like that, you would expect that, you know, things would be going towards more of a definitive conclusion, that you could see where the threads are moving towards. But, you know, I'm still left with a ton of questions, more questions than answers. And it feels like for every answer, you have another few questions that kind of unfold. So Brandon Sanderson is doing it really effectively in this book. I gotta say, like, there's a few gripes I have it with it, but I will say that, like, my favorite, you know, in the 5 is probably Words of Radiance, the second book, followed closely by The Way of Kings, the first book. But this, I would say, Wind and Truth so far, maybe a little early to say, of course. I gotta see if he sticks the landing with this, but I gotta say this is right there in that same echelon for me. I feel like the character growth in this is phenomenal. I mean, it's like the character growth in this one book so far in these 800 pages could be its own 5 books worth of character growth. So really fascinating to see that, and that's something Brandon Sanderson does really well. So if you haven't read Stormlight Archive, I know they're really big, but I promise you they're worth it. Definitely give it a shot at some point. You don't have to read them all back to back, but I will say, if you don't read them back to back, definitely take notes, because there is so much lore covered. When I was reading this, I am so grateful that I had the time to reread Book 4, Rhythm of War, because I was surprised at how much I'd forgotten, because just so much lore and magic system and kind of character development is covered that it would be impossible to keep a track of it all without either notes or rereading, or reading them close together. So just keep that in mind when you go on your reading adventure with Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive. But loving it so far. Definitely looking forward to continuing the journey. So that, I guess, leads to what am I going to read this coming week. So no surprise there. Still got a ways to go for this. Roughly almost 600 pages left, which is pretty insane. So that would be considered a large book, right, in itself. So I'm going to be reading that. And then I'm very excited to return being the keyword, to the world of Edan by Philip Chase. Author of the Edan trilogy, of course, a wonderful booktuber and wonderful person as well. I've gotten a chance to get to know him, you know, over the last few weeks, especially of, you know, being a guest on his Dear Dr. Fantasy segment, which I'm linking down below, and also up here. And then also he was a guest on my channel too. So I really, you know, I appreciate how gracious he's been with spotlighting a younger and smaller booktube channel like myself, and just being just so wonderful, welcoming part of the community. So, and it just so happens he's an incredible fantasy writer. So I love the first 2 books, The Way of Edan, The Prophet of Edan, and I loved, you know, The Prophet of Edan even more than The Way of Edan, which I really, really enjoyed. So I'm so looking forward to seeing how Return to Edan kind of evolves the character arcs, and also the story has already gotten places I didn't expect. Book 2's ending felt like what you would imagine the end of a trilogy to be. So it's like, oh, where do we go from here? I'm excited to see how things unfold from here. And I think Philip was mentioning, he had read, I think in between books 1 and 2, and then also book 3, he had read Malazan, Book of the Fallen, and stuff like that. And he was in the editing process, at least for book 3 at that point. So I'm curious to see how these influences, if any, unfold throughout those pages. So looking forward to checking that out. I'm leaving the link in the description for this, and of course all the other books I chat about here today. So that is kind of the plan. I mean, honestly, even working on those 2 books and really taking the time to enjoy and digest it is really important to me, because they're fantastic and I don't want to just speed run through them. It's not really that useful to me to I guess you could say, like, make a counter on Goodreads and go, oh, I read this many books, if I didn't, get the most out of them as possible. And also with the Edan trilogy, it has a special place in my heart. For a second reason, if you haven't heard the news yet, we had announced this on a live stream that we had done about a week ago. But Philip, Chase, and I are collaborating on an official main theme, a music theme for the Edan trilogy. So to coincide with his Broken Binding special edition releases of his books. So I couldn't be more grateful and honored to, contribute in some small way to his wonderful world and his characters. And I'm looking forward to diving into the music. So I want to make sure that I am, fully versed in all things Edan before I really just jump into the fray. So expect more updates as I kind of continue on that train, but very excited for all that. So let's talk a little bit about some channel updates. So interesting things happened both from a video standpoint and then, of course, from a standpoint of just the channel itself. So we have crossed 900 subscribers. 900 of you wanted to listen to me blather on endlessly about the books I love. And I can't be more grateful for you all being here. We have also crossed the 3,000 hour watch time threshold, which again, it's like 3,000 hours. You guys watch 3,000 hours of my stuff. I am so grateful that, anything I do is resonating with you all. I did this purely for fun because I love the BookTube community. It was in no small part responsible for me getting to work on the Wheel of Time eventually, because it satiated my love, kind of stoked the flame of my passion for reading and for fantasy. So, I'm just so grateful for you all being here, and I hope I can continue to add value for you all. And let's talk a little bit about the video that I released. So I always do my weekly reading roundups on Monday mornings now. And on Friday, I had released kind of a top standalones that I want to attempt reading in 2025, kind of rounding out this video trilogy I had planned. So basically, I had one that was the top series I want to complete in 2025, one that was the top series I want to start in 2025, and then another one that was the top standalones that I want to complete in 2025. So, I'm linking those all up here and in the description if you want to check them out. You can get an idea of what my reading plans are and stuff like that. And of course, we have a Discord below. So if you want to join that, we have about 43 strong now. We're talking all the time about our favorite authors, books, letting people know about sales on Kindle or whatever, what have you. Just a thriving community there. We're getting ready for not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 read-alongs next year. So it's going to be bananas. One that's the official read-along, the Malazan Book of the Fallen one, and I'm still working on getting guests ready for that. And then we have 3 soft read-alongs in January. It's Wars of Light and Shadow, Ryan Cahill's The Bound and the Broken, and the Matthew Corbett series by Robert McCammon. So those are going to be soft read-alongs in that for Malazan, I'm going to have, a ton of content for them. We're going to be much more heavily invested in that series, because that series alone ends up being, it takes a lot of time to get through, and getting through it with friends makes it less intimidating, right? But there's just be more discussions of those. For example, with Jenny Wirtz's videos, with her books, I'll probably read one every other month. If people want to jump on, jump off, it's a bit more casual, So feel free to join at your leisure, at your pace, and we'd just love to have you any which way that you would like to contribute. So that's kind of what the plan is there. And then let's talk a little bit about the channel schedule, because a couple really cool things happening this week. So I'm going to be releasing an Adaptation News Episode 4 video. So this will kind of round out the news, unless there's some cataclysmic crazy news that comes as far as the adaptation news is concerned in the next couple weeks before the year's out. I think that will conclude the adaptation news for this year. So I will try to be as thorough as possible and let you know where different projects are in the pipeline. So rather than just talking about things as they're announced, because half the time, have you noticed this? Like, things get announced and then you never hear about them again because they fall in development hell, or they take a step backwards. Maybe a showrunner leaves, something happens right in production. And because I've worked in this space a lot, and it's something that I want to do even more, I've just become privy to more knowledge about where things are in the different stages. And then also, you think about it this way, it's like, because I've worked in that business, I know what it means when something is announced and goes silent. Like, what are, if you were to read between the lines, what does that actually imply? Where does this book, how far along is it really? So that kind of stuff, if I can provide value to you guys that way, I'm happy to do it, because it's fun. And it's fun to talk about the books for adapted for the bigger, small screen, and kind of like seeing where our favorite books end up, right? So that's the first video. The second video, I just confirmed this was Chaz from Bookish Chaz, who I'm linking down below. Wonderful booktuber, wonderful guy. And he's just such another welcoming staple of the booktube community to me. And I just love the way he talks about books. We did a read-along of the Mistborn Era 2, Book 4, The Lost Metal, earlier this summer, I think it was. All these months are starting to blur together, but we've been meaning to get on a kind of a discussion video to talk about that. And as time has passed, we're both reading Wind and Truth right now. Presumably, we'll probably be a little bit further along in that by the time we have this video, but we wanted to do also kind of a broader Cosmere related discussions, maybe with spoiler free and spoiler. We're gonna probably talk about it and figure out what's the best way to kind of give that live discussion to you all, and that's actually going to be on his channel. So that is going to be on Saturday, I believe at 11 a.m. PST. I'll confirm all this, and then we'll drop the thumbnail and stuff like that in the community post, so you all can kind of follow along if you'd like to. Please join us in the chat. Like, that's always the most fun about these things, is like booktubers getting to chat with each other, get to chat with you all. And it's a nice way to spend a weekend, weekend morning or something like that, and talk for an hour or two and just chat about, in this case, now that the Cosmere is really starting to tie together. Cosmere is like Brandon Sanderson's larger universe that takes place across multiple series and standalones that he has. So, that's his kind of magnum opus kind of thing. The MCU, Brandon Sanderson MCU version or something like that, if you want to call it that way. But so we're going to talk a little bit about that. So please feel free to join us on that. So that kind of wraps up the channel schedule aspect of things. Let's talk a little bit about on the music front, on the music and film front. So as I mentioned before, I'm working on a short film that I produced and I'm now composing on, called The Conduit. Now, this one was very difficult to kind of get started with, honestly, because it's a short film. It's 15 minutes. It's a proof of concept for a feature. And we're shopping the feature around to various studios, trying to get investors involved, things like that right now. So in the meantime, I'm kind of working on the music for this. And it's difficult because even though it's short, it, thematically, visually, everything has to feel top notch, as if you're getting a feature's worth of story in one short film. And we've been really trying to push the envelope on every front, and music included. So I'm trying to make themes that will weave together and really bring the score to life. And that's hard to do for a feature, let alone for a short, when you have less time to tell that same story. So that has been a challenge, but I cracked the code yesterday and I was so excited. So I'm looking forward to continuing down that train. And Connor is going to be leaving on vacation, I think on the 19th or something. So we're going to meet like on the 18th. I'm going to show him some stuff. So I'm very excited to show him, and looking forward to showing you all as well. So that has all been going on. I've also been doing promo for the Society of Composers and Lyricists. They have an award show. It's a very kind of a growing big award show for honoring composers and their works. And my score for Dead Whispers in contention right now for the David Raxon Award for Emerging Talent. So I'm very excited about that. So I've been doing promo for that, making videos about talking about how I used instruments from all across the world. Like I used a Thai woodwind instrument, recontextualized it, made it feel like Cape Cod. It's like you can do anything. It's all musical world building. So that's been really fun to do. And, as far as this week is considered, I'm going to kind of continue on those things and then kind of start on the Idan trilogy theme as I jump into Return to Idan. So couldn't be more excited for that. But that's about it for me. Let me know, how was your week this week? Did you guys read anything really cool, exciting? I know some of us have gotten a chance to chat about this stuff on the Discord, so it's nice to be able to have a very close-knit conversation like that, a nice back and forth. But feel free to leave it in the comments, if not the Discord, if you don't want to be, if you don't want to kind of join in a more active discussion, you kind of want to just leave a comment. Let me know how your week was and what you read that was particularly exciting. I've gotten great recommendations from you in turn, and I hope I can keep recommending good books to you all. So with that, I'm Nick Hill with Shelf-Esteem. Be good to yourselves, be good to each other, have a wonderful week as we approach the holidays, y'all, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.